So I just got home from work like, I don't know, hour or two ago. It's about 4:30 in the morning right now. And I'm going to do my mock draft for you guys. All right. So, as you can see, there's no Eagles newspaper clippings in this, background here. I got to keep it quiet. It's 4:30 in the morning. That the background is upstairs in my room. So, can't do that video in there because I'm going to wake everyone up. So, and I also got to keep it quiet. So, I'm not going to be getting as enthusiastic as I normally do. So, got to keep the volume low in this one. So, but without further ado, my 2015 mock draft, I figured I'd do it now as opposed to when I got up. I'm probably not going to get up till like 2 p.m. Just get it done now. So, without further ado, my number one pick in my 2015 NFL mock draft, no surprise, it's Jameis Winston. That's really all that needs to be said there. Now, obviously, things get interesting at number 2. Do the Titans keep the pick? Do they take either Marcus Mariota or Leonard Williams? Or do they deal it to a desperate team looking for a franchise quarterback? There are 3 teams in the running to trade up. You have San Diego, Cleveland, and Philadelphia. The Chargers can offer a package centering around Phillip Rivers. The Browns can send both of their first-round picks and whatever other draft compensation Tennessee is looking for. And the Eagles can give up multiple players like Fletcher Cox, Sam Bradford, Michael Kendricks to go along with some draft compensation. If I had to guess, I really think Mariota is going to Philly. I think Chip is willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen. And as an Eagles fan, I'm going to have mixed feelings because they're going to give up way, way, way too much to get him. If Winston and Mariota go 1-2, all of a sudden the name to keep an eye on is Leonard Williams because he might fall. But if I'm the GM of Oakland at 4, the speculation is that they might take a receiver. But if Williams is on the board, you got to go get him. So going back to this Mariota thing real quick, I'm thinking it's going to be Cox, it's going to be Bradford, it's going to be Kendricks, it's going to be possibly 2 first-round picks. I mean, that's a lot to give up. And if you're Tennessee, you do that trade in a heartbeat because if you get Fletcher Cox, he's pretty much, the same thing as Leonard Williams. So if you keep the pick and you take Williams, well, you're getting the same thing with Cox, and then you're going to get Bradford. You're going to get a guy like Kendricks. You're going to get draft compensation. And the other thing too is Cox is now here for more than a year. He signed. The Eagles picked up his option for 2016. So the Titans would have him for 2 years. So the Titans are getting a lot back in a potential package. And if you're Tennessee, you got to consider doing that swap. And the other thing that could happen too is, Tennessee could take Mariota and, the Eagles don't pick till 20. So, you still got a lot of time in between picks 2 and 20 to make a trade. But I think this is going to happen. I don't know how it gets done, but it's going to get done. Chip's going to make it happen. And Marcus Mariota, he's going to be on the Eagles. So that's what I think. All right. Let's go to the Jags at number 3. In the wake of the Jared Odrick signing, I don't think the Jags are going to go Williams. They also have, the vastly underrated Senderick Marks as their other defensive tackle. So you got a pretty good, D-tackle pairing there. So I think the pick here is Dante Fowler of Florida. He fits what Gus Bradley looks for at the Leo position. But with, 33-year-old Chris Clemens currently filling that spot, I would think Fowler would start out at the Otto position before eventually taking over for Clemens. Fowler is extremely versatile, so I don't see that being a problem. If you guys don't know what the Leo is, it's basically like a hybrid defensive end / outside linebacker pass rusher. They must set the edge in the run game and create a pass rush. It's basically the traditional right end, but with great speed and get off the snap. The Otto, meanwhile, holds the edge on early downs and provides a pass rush and side-to-side coverage on third downs. As I was explaining a little bit earlier, most mock drafts have the Raiders taking Amari Cooper or Kevin White at number 4, giving Derek Carr another weapon after signing Michael Crabtree during the offseason. And speaking of Carr, I must say I like what I saw from him last season. So, Oakland can be a team, not necessarily, to look out for regarding, maybe a playoff spot, but they're a team that I can see, winning 6, 7, 8 games next year. And I don't think it should surprise some people. I think Carr is the real deal. I like him a lot. I like his, the leadership factors that he has. And, I think he has some of that it factor. So if Williams falls here, I think he's too talented to pass up. You snag him, you take him, you plug him in, and, you're going to get yourself a Pro Bowler. So you got to take Williams in this spot. At number 5, since I'm going to have some fun and do some trades in my mock draft, I have the Redskins moving back to number 8 in a swap with the Atlanta Falcons, who desperately need a pass rusher. The Falcons were 32nd against the pass a year ago, produced the second fewest sacks in the league. Croy Bierman was their leading sack artist with, just 4.5 sacks. So Shane Ray would have been the fit for Atlanta number 8. But his recent marijuana arrest and, the issue of his bulky foot, I think he might fall out of the first round. So I don't think he will. I think some team will, take a chance on him. But, in terms of being number 8, I don't think he's going to be there. I don't think they're going to take him at number 8. Randy Gregory is the other wild card as well. He was a former, top 10 projected pick before he failed a marijuana test at the combine. I honestly, weed's great and all, smoke it, whatever. But you're an NFL prospect, and to do this, this close to the draft, honestly, it just shows how fucking stupid you are, and you can't be doing shit like that. No, can't be doing it. So at number 5, if the Falcons trade up, which, I think there's a possibility of it happening, I think they would take Vic Beasley. I think he's the best pass rusher in this class, and I think he would be a perfect fit for Atlanta. So Washington also needs help at safety, cornerback, and offensive line, but there's not really a prospect rated high enough to select at number 5. So I think falling back to number 8 would make sense. So I think this trade, I don't know what are the odds of it happening, but I think it's a legitimate, thing that we might be able to see. The Jets need a quarterback. Cornerback could use an edge rusher with Quentin Cobles and Calvin Pace set to become free agents. But if Amari Cooper's there, Kevin White's there, I'm not passing on either of those guys. Sure, New York just got Brandon Marshall. So they still have Eric Decker, but Marshall's on the wrong side of 30. He's on the downside of his career. I like White over Cooper, but it seems like the consensus is that teams prefer Cooper, so he would be the pick here. Number 6, Amari Cooper. And speaking of Marshall, his former team needs to replace him to pair alongside Alshon Jeffrey. So I would think the Bears would take Kevin White at number 7. Danny Shelton and Trae Waynes would also be solid options for the Bears, who need to rebuild their defense, but I'm not passing on White in this situation. So due to my prediction of the Redskins and Falcons striking a deal, the Redskins are now picking at 8. At number 5, it would have been too high to take a guy like Waynes or Brandon Scherff. But at number 8, it's fine. The Redskins yielded 58 sacks a year ago. The revolving door of Tom Compton, Morgan Moses, and Tyler Columbus just wasn't cutting it at right tackle. So I'd take Scherff at number 8. You plug him in at right tackle, and there you go. The Giants at number 9 would have loved to see Scherff fall to him, but since there's a lot of options at tackle, here we go again, another trade scenario. I'm going to prognosticate a possible trade with the Dolphins, who pick at 14. The Giants, I have them picking up Miami's second-round pick, and the Dolphins, in exchange, would give the Giants the Giants would give Miami a 4th-round pick. So Miami needs a receiver. I've got him taking DeVante Parker of Louisville with this pick. A trade for the Dolphins would vault them over a handful of teams who might decide to go with Parker. Minnesota is rumored to like Parker a lot. The Vikes, however, also appear to like Waynes as well. So I think this is another scenario where I could see it happening. If the Giants keep the pick, expect either Andrus, Peat, or Ereck Flowers. The tackles, one of those guys. Since I have the Giants moving back and not taking a tackle, this leaves the Rams with a choice between Peat and Flowers. If they want to play it safe, they'll go with Peat. If they want to, take a chance on a guy with upside, you go with Flowers. I think Peat would be the pick here, but I'll say this about Flowers. I said this in my, preview video on the offensive lineman. I think Flowers has a chance to be the best tackle in this draft. I think he's that good. So, he's a guy to keep an eye on the years to come, and we'll see how he pans out. St. Louis could also go cornerback and take Waynes. Janoris Jenkins is their best corner, and he's a free agent after the season. Other than Jenkins, there's not really a lot of depth at the position in St. Louis. So there's your little draft preview on the Rams. Waynes fits perfectly for the Vikings at 11. You pair him up with Xavier Rhodes. The other name to watch out here might be Todd Gurley, with the status of Adrian Peterson up in the air. So keep an eye on that. Atiba Rubin is gone, and Phil Taylor has been a huge disappointment since a promising start to his career. The Browns were atrocious against the run the second half of the year, so I think Danny Shelton, the big mammoth nose tackle of Washington, would be a fit here, and that's where I got him. Obviously, the Browns are also a handful of teams in the Mariota sweepstakes, but ultimately, in my scenario, I would have the Eagles up there because I just think Chip Kelly has more balls than everyone else, and I don't think he really cares how much, they're going to give up to get him. So, and the other thing I was talking about yesterday, Chip, going back to the Mariota thing, Chip says, he doesn't want to mortgage the future to go all the way up. And by mortgaging the future, that means draft compensation. But if you're giving up players like Cox and Kendricks, guys like that, who knows who else they're going to throw in? Even Evan Mathis or Brandon Boykin, one of those guys could go as well. So, I can see Chip giving up a lot of guys to get his boy. But, in terms of the draft compensation, I see what Chip's saying. And I in this scenario that I would have the Eagles trading up, they would give up their first rounder this year and their first rounder next year. And that would be it. Or what also might happen, maybe they give up a couple of second-round picks because, next year, because of the Bradford trade, they don't have a second-round pick. Maybe the other thing is maybe you give up your first rounder in 2017, so you have a pick in the first 2 rounds next year. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But I said it already 5 minutes ago. I think Mariota's coming to Philly. So I'm getting my hopes up, and I don't know how I'm going to feel once he comes and once I see what the Eagles are going to have to give up. So that's that. Let's move on. Saints are picking at number 13. They need a pass rusher. And despite Shane Ray's arrest Monday due to marijuana possession, I think he's too talented for New Orleans to pass up. Now, I'm hearing Ray may not even go in the first 3 rounds. I really don't know what's going to happen, to be honest with you. I'm not a general manager. I don't know what teams think. But, I would take Ray here if I'm the Saints. If they don't want the controversy, then maybe you take Alvin Bud Dupree of Kentucky. But I think they need a pass rusher, and I would take Ray. Whatever, screw it, take him. Hopefully he learned his lesson. So that's what I would do. The Giants would be selecting number 14 in my mock draft due to the trade with the Dolphins. In my swap, I have New York getting Miami's second-round pick. And again, like I said, the Dolphins would receive a 4th rounder from the Giants. Miami would now what the hell am I talking about? I kind of lost my thought. It is very, very early in the morning. But the reason why I would, take Parker at 9, I think there is a drop-off between Parker and the rest of the pack. The Dolphins, they don't have Mike Wallace anymore. So I think trading for Parker makes sense. And, go up, insure it, make the deal, and you get Parker. The G-men, meanwhile, they'll still get a solid tackle at 14. I'm going to take Ereck Flowers for them. And you could, they might even take Ereck Flowers at number 9 anyway. So if you're the Giants, you got an extra second-round pick in this situation. I think it's a trade that, you should do. San Francisco's dominant defense is not so dominant anymore. Linebackers Chris Borland and Patrick Willis retired, and longtime defensive end Justin Smith is 35. So I think the pick here would be Arik Armstead out of Oregon. Play some 3-4 defensive end for him. He could take over for Smith when he retires. So I think that's the pick there. Houston at 16 could go a couple different ways. And this is another instance where I'm going to take a chance on a character. I'm taking my chance on Randy Gregory. Pick him up. Pair him with Jadeveon Clowney. You know, as I was saying earlier, Gregory was like a potential top 5 pick before failing that marijuana test at the combine. Again, these guys, you know, Ray and Gregory, these are the guys to watch out for tomorrow to see if they get picked or not. You know, and if they don't get picked, who the hell knows when they go. So Gregory is a guy to watch out for here, I think. So Gregory and Clowney, that's a pretty good little duo. The Chargers pick at 17. They need help on the line. Running back, they could use an edge rusher. I had Lael Collins at this spot before the deals came out the other day of his ex-girlfriend's murder. While he is not considered a suspect, I would think his draft stock might fall a little bit. So to replace Ryan Matthews in the backfield, I have San Diego taking Todd Gurley. So all of a sudden, your running back position is filled. Kansas City has a few holes. Could use an interior lineman, another wideout despite the signing of Jeremy Maclin, a cornerback, or a 3-4 defensive end. Andy Reid is a former lineman, and in a bit of a surprise, I've got the Chiefs taking Florida State center Cam Erving. So we all know Andy Reid in Philadelphia. We all know he likes surprises when he makes his picks. Sometimes they pan out. Sometimes they don't. Just don't take a fireman, Andy. Don't do it. My tip of the day. All right, Cleveland got its nose tackle earlier on in the draft and Danny Shelton, and could go a number of different ways with its second first round pick. The Browns need an inside linebacker, a tight end, a running back, and maybe even a receiver. But I would take Melvin Gordon here. Gordon, I think he's going to be a stud at the next level. I look at him being like Jamal Charles. He and Gurley, I think, are going to be, both studs at the next level. I know, like, the philosophy is, these days, don't take a running back in the first round. But with these two guys, I think they're dynamite. I think these guys are Pro Bowlers. So, I don't have a problem with the team taking, either of these guys in the first round. So, in my mock, I have the Eagles trading with the Titans, moving up to number 2. So, for Tennessee, since Bud Dupree, I referenced him earlier, since he's still on the board at this point, I think he'd be hard to pass up. The Titans appear set at outside linebacker. You got Derek Morgan and Brian Orakpo. But with Orakpo's recent injury history, his whole career really, I think having some insurance with Dupree would be nice. And plus you're getting, a solid player in return. So that's the pick I would go there. I'm just going to go run off the rest of my first round now. 21, Cincinnati. I got him taking Breshad Perriman, wide receiver of UCF. 22nd, Pittsburgh. I got him taking Landon Collins. Troy Polamalu just retired, so he's a safety. There's a fit there. Detroit, they lost Ndamukong Suh during the offseason. Although they have Haloti Ngata, I'm still going to go take a D tackle. I'm taking Malcolm Brown of Texas. At Arizona's, offensive line is trash. I would take DJ Humphries, tackle from Florida. Carolina, I've got Kevin Johnson, cornerback from Wake Forest. I think Johnson's the second best corner in this class, in this draft. At 25, I don't know if he falls that far, but if he's there when Carolina's picking, I think he's the guy to take there. Nelson Aguilar, wide receiver, USC. I got him going to Baltimore. Eddie Goldman, defensive tackle, Florida State. I got him going to Dallas. And, Dallas is interesting because if Gurley or Gordon are there, I would seriously consider picking one of those guys. But if, you're the Cowboys, the other thing is your offensive line's so dominant that maybe you take a guy in the second or third round instead of, going first round because you do need a lot of help on that defense. I got Jordan Phillips, defensive tackle of Oklahoma, going to Denver at number 28. Bernardrick McKinney, inside linebacker, Mississippi State, going to Indianapolis at number 29. I got Max Williams, tight end of Minnesota, going to Green Bay at number 30. Seattle, I'm not really high on Marcus Peters, the cornerback from Washington, but his style of play fits Seattle perfectly. So I think he's a perfect fit there. Any other team, I think Peters is, kind of like a bust, but I like him for Seattle. So I think he's going to excel for the Seahawks. And finally, rounding out the first round, the only guard going in the first round, I've got A.J. Cann of South Carolina going to New England. And New England, they might also take a wide receiver at this spot. But, I like Cann for them. I think he would be a fit on that O-line. And you got Tom Brady, so you really don't need great receivers. And you got Gronk. So I would go Cann. Maybe wait till the second round to get a receiver if you're the Patriots. So that's my full first-round mock draft. I'm curious to see how this turns out because I'm really tired right now. And, I know I stumbled a lot on some of my words, but I got it done. And I actually did a full 3-round mock draft. So you can click on the description box below if you want to see it all down there. So with that being said, I'm out of here. I'm going to go to bed. I'm Adrian Fedkiw of the Bitter Birds. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. I'm out. Peace.